Hey, so we are in week 5, and so this is the middle of the second module. This is where we get into really checking out your lives, where you're at now and where you're going to go. So here are a few perspectives. So number one, where you're at today is the culmination of the decisions that you've made and the actions that you've taken. So that could be good, could be challenging, but the good news is this: you are where you are, and where you go next is up to you. So what does that mean? It means that every step you take from this point forward is up to you. No matter where you're at, other people have had it worse. No matter where you're going, other people have been here, done it. They go on to do whatever else. You're not too old. You're not too young. You're starting out with some great opportunities, assets, and resources that, to be honest, most people don't have. And that's the good news. No matter what you dream, if you think you're on the right trajectory and you develop that out, and that turns out to be the direction of your life as we go through this designing your life, fantastic. If you take a look at some of your fallback opportunities and you say, you know what, that's some kind of cool stuff, I'd like to incorporate some of that into what I'm doing next, that's perfect too. And I commend you for that. Do it, build it in, have some fun. But then as you look ahead and you say, I wish I could do some more of that. Or if you start to say, I'll do that later. I'll do it when the kids are grown. I'll do it when, a little bit older. I'll do it when I retire, or I'll do it when blah, blah, blah. Forget about it. Look, life's too short. I've had way too many people to be honest, whose lives have come to an abrupt halt. Time's short. Life is short. Ask yourself why you got to wait. If you're waiting for a more convenient time, it's never going to get more convenient. If you're going to wait until you can have some spare time, you will never have spare time. You're going to have the time that you make. Like, no one has more time than another person. You have the time that you make, and that's up to you to decide where your priorities are. Now, that said, this week and last weekend and into this week, we start talking about fallacies. What's fallacies? Fallacies is just a bunch of BS that you make up in your head. These fallacies are truths that we use as justifications. Sometimes they're foundations upon which we base our decisions, base our actions. They're false truths. Sometimes fallacies are based on fear, false evidence that appears real. Right? That's some of the fallacies that we use. But bottom line is fallacies, BS. That's where we have to identify it. We have to call it. Look, if you open that fridge and you have that smell in the back of the fridge, it's not going to get any better. You can open that fridge and close it as many times as you want, but that smell's not going to go away. Not only is it not going to go away, it's going to get worse. Same thing goes with these fallacies. If you're basing a lot of your decisions and your life on these fallacies, it's not going to get any better. It's not going to be more valid just because you've essentially come to where you're at because hey, it's worked so far, so let's just fake it till you make it. Love that one. Fake it till you make it. Like, there's one thing to know that you're on the right path and you're not quite sure what you're doing, so you're going to take the step forward in faith. Faith is one thing. Faking it until you make it is the wrong premise. But these fallacies, right? We ask you to take a look at some of these fallacies and say, hey, what are some of these that you take a look at, and what do you base some of these on? And I'm just looking at this list right now of all these fallacies, and these are just a lot of excuses. Now, some of them stand out on others. I like this feedback fallacy, right? That you listen to others' feedback and you believe it. If you disagree with it, you believe it, and you never question if they're right. Now, sometimes other people give us feedback and we don't like it. And you know what? You can argue with it. If it's a supervisor, if it's a boss, if it's somebody who's a mentor and gives you feedback, it's good to question. It's good to step back and say, I don't recommend disagreeing with them in the moment, because at some time you may get feedback that you need, but you may not like. It could be candid feedback. It may just hit you square in the head. We need that, and we need people who can give it to us. Now, it's not comfortable and it's not fun, but we need people who can give that to us. Now, if you have some of those people in your life, listen to them. Get them close to you. You need at least one, possibly two, in your group of 5. You need the 5 closest people next to you. You need at least one in your group of 5. You need someone who's not afraid to come up to tell you you're wrong. Yeah, that's a dumb idea. And be able to call it straight up and say, there are good bad ideas, then there are just really terrible bad ideas. And they need to be able to tell you straight up, that's a bad idea. You need those kind of people. But then when it comes to feedback, you need somebody who's going to be able to tell you, not just it's a bad idea or, hey, this is it, because they're criticizing you. They need to share perspective. They need to coach you. They need to give you some guidance so that you can see why, or at least have another opinion. But if there's somebody who's telling you you're wrong or that you're doing it wrong, criticizing you, giving you feedback that's just negative, ask the question. If you disagree with it because you don't like it, that's one thing. If you disagree with it because you think it's wrong, or their perspective is wrong, or they're disagreeing with your goals because your goals are different than theirs, consider this. Why are they giving you that feedback? If they're giving you the feedback because your goals go beyond theirs, don't get hung up on their feedback. Don't diminish your goals because somebody else tells you that you can't do it. Okay, granted, that could get you into a lot of trouble. My experience tells me it could get you into some trouble. In fact, just may get you fired, maybe a couple of times too. But you know what? It's what builds character, and it's what helps to solidify where you're going and what your trajectories are. It also helps you to build value. Now, I like this one. What's the fallacy? The fallacy of the Scotsman. Now, granted, the McNeil in me, right from the Clan McEwen and the Clan McNeil, will tell you it's pretty good, right? Let's see. What's the no true Scotsman fallacy here? It's under the accident, right? Makes a generalization true by changing the generalization to exclude a counterexample. So you say, well, a true Scotsman wouldn't do that. Someone would say, oh, well, so-and-so's a Scotsman and he does it. Well, but a true Scotsman wouldn't do that. Right? They're trying to characterize that, hey, here's this nature of the Scots, and, real Scots wouldn't do this. Well, and so we try to back it up. You could do whatever you want. It's BS. You got to figure out what you want, what your values are, what's critical to you, and how you're going to line that up. All right. But that said, let me share a little something with you. So I had the chance to hang out with John Maxwell here in August, and had a little VIP session. So there were about 10 of us that hung out with him for about 2 hours. So think about it. It's like, what do you ask? Because he's going around the room here, right? And we have the opportunity to. Now, I've been to a number of his conferences. I've seen him live. Had some great moments. Learned a lot from him. I read a lot of his books. I don't have questions. I seriously don't. I don't want to ask that dumb question. I don't want to ask the stupid question just to ask a question. I seriously don't have a question. I'm being inspired. I'm soaking it in. I love this conversation. It's going great. But finally, he calls on me. It's like, all right, Wade. And he'll tell you, hi, Wade. My name's John. I'm your friend. What's your question? I got to ask it. So I've been thinking, though. I was like, look, all right, John, look, I got to tell you, like, I'm working on this 4th book, right? And this is me. I'm not telling him because he's the one that's written all the books. But I'm thinking in my mind, I'm writing this book on leadership. And my observation is that for the past several years, especially the last 5 years, but over the last several years, we've seen a decline in leadership effectiveness. It is. Leaders aren't leading. We have the biggest deficit that we have, the biggest challenge we have as organizations and as people, as a country, as a world. We lack leaders, true leaders. So I asked John. I said, John, I have my opinions. I want to get your take on this. What's happening to leaders? I said, it's not the same. Leaders are not leading. It's been tough, but I've seen a decline in the last few years, last several years. What's your take? He looked at me, and you could tell from the eye contact and the expression on his face, he just sunk. He said, Wade, He says, I'm going to summarize it. I'm going to call it leadership sadness. I said, I like that term. He said, I'll tell you why. He said, this has been going on for 30 years. He said, it's back in about the 90s where we started to allow the excuse. We gave people a buy. We let people say, I would do this, but, and then name your excuse. I would have done this, except, blah, blah, blah. Right? It's my dog ate my homework. Oh, that's okay. Please go and be a leader anyway. We place people into leadership positions. We put them into management positions. We put them into responsible positions, and they fail, or they don't come through. They don't meet expectations. And because they don't meet expectations, because they fail, their people fail. And when their people fail, companies fail, organizations fail, everyone fails. And what do we say? That's okay. That's okay. You know, because what's their excuse? Yeah, I would have done it, but I didn't have enough of this. I would have done that, but I don't have that. I would have done this, but. The would have done it, but, right? Someone should have done it, or someone else could have done it. I would have, but we stopped holding leaders accountable. They stopped holding themselves accountable. That's it. Leadership sadness. 30 years ago is when we started to allow leaders to make excuses for themselves and have a buy, and we still kept them into place. That's what we're talking about here. These fallacies are those excuses. We blame the fallacies, and we blame somebody else for our outcomes, for our results. If you want true results, you want to make the change, you have to decide where you're going to go, what you're going to do, and you need to do it. Look, the change, the shift, it's not going to be easy. It never is. As John also shared, everything good is uphill, right? No one accidentally got to the summit of a mountain. Valid point. It was a good 2 hours. But just keep that in mind. These fallacies, pick your fallacies, but what's critical is that you need to find a mechanism to identify what are the fallacies in your life. What are the beliefs that you have that are incorrect? What are the perspectives that you have? What's the BS that you're listening to that you believe? Whose opinions are you believing? Who are you listening to that you shouldn't? How can you shift that? How can you change that? How can you start behaving differently, thinking differently, believing differently? You start making those mind shift changes, that's where it's going to start to make a difference. So keep it going. Keep on the straight and narrow here. I got a few more videos here that I'll share this week to shift into the next segment as you start to identify and start to change your pathway here for the assignment that's coming up. But in the meantime, identify your fallacies. Pick one, talk about where it's making the difference, figure out how you're going to make that shift, figure out how you're going to come up with your BS detector, and then make a go of it. So you can do it. You got this, but it has to start today. So good on you.